In this episode of KIDZ Podcast, I get to share my wisdom with you about leading kids in your church and in your home. Because dealing with kids is work, hard work, and I want to give you the tools you need to champion the kids around you. You can learn more and support us at rongaleministries.com. All right, today we're talking about the big difference between kids ministries, youth ministries, and family ministries, part 2. Whereas last episode we covered kids ministries, what that entails, the ages, how we would break it down, when we would break it down, and the focus. And the bottom line, we said that kids ministries tends to be the ministries that gives the ministry to those between ages 0 through grade 6. And often that is, when you talk about the difference between a kids pastor and a youth pastor and the family life pastor, the kids pastor oversees the ministries that deals with those between ages 0 and grade 6. Now, we did also say that grade 6 can be up or down, left and right. So it kind of depends on the culture you're at and whatnot. Today we're going to talk more about the youth department, the youth pastor, the youth ministry, which deals with grade 6 through grade 12. That's going to be how we're going to classify it in our episode today of kids. Typically when we talk about the role of the kids pastor and the role of the youth pastor and the role of the family life pastor, the youth pastor oversees the departments that brings ministry to 6th grade, 7th grade, 8th grade, 9th grade, 10th grade, 11th grade, and 12th grade. All right, so let's dig in a little more. Kids ministry and their ages. And so I've seen youth ministry done in multiple ways. The most common one is your church has a youth group, and every kid from 6th grade through 12th grade is in the same room, and that works. It has worked for years. It has worked for many years, for many groups. And it's worked for a long time because we have made it work. The unfortunate reality is, when it comes to youth ministry, we cannot afford 2 pastors or afford a lot of resources or afford to put a lot at it because it's not a ministry that garners a lot of income. Does it have income? Sure. Does it have opportunities? Yes. However, the truth is in most churches, that is a ministry with a large expense and very little income. So there's not a lot of opportunity for the youth pastor to grow its staff and grow its team unless it starts getting creative on its own with revenue. I have seen it broken down from your junior high ministry and your senior high ministry. I've seen that. So you can say that 9th, 10th, 11th, and 12th grade is the senior high, and then 6th, 7th, and 8th is the junior high. I've seen that, and I've seen other slight variations of that. Even right now in our program, we're kind of talking through the idea of having a 456 pre-teen, pre-junior high, then a junior high, then a senior high. We're talking about that. And we're talking more about that because of the younger group being bigger than the larger group. So what would it look like to have, say, a 5th, 6th, 7th grade, then 8th, 9th, 10th grade, then 11th, 12th grade? What would that look like? And at the end of the day, the ones with a power and influence can make that decision. It's not just what I think or what you think. It's what the organization wants. And so that can be good. Over in our program, right now they all meet as one. I think it's actually, we do 7th grade, 8th grade, 9th grade, 10th grade, 11th grade, and 12th grade are all in one room. I would love to see us grow and get to the point where we can have a junior high and a senior high. Now, so how would we then begin to think through when you should break that down? I would compare it much like last week's episode where we talked about the 80% rule. And to review, if 80% of your room is filled to capacity, we need to start thinking about expanding or splitting. So to reiterate, we said that imagine if you had 100 chairs filling your room to capacity. This represents 100% of the seating space or sitting space or places to sit. And then we go on, fill those seats to 80. That should be your target, your goal. You don't want 81, 82, 90, 97. That's no room now. There's nowhere to sit, and it's too cluttery, too hot, and too much going on. And I don't like that. Even when I was a youth, many moons ago, I did not want to be in that kind of space. I did not want to be in a crowded room. I wanted to be a part of a big youth ministry, but I didn't want to be all stuck in one room. So, right around 80%, we should be thinking about splitting up. And that could go in many different directions, and it's all up to you and your resources. This is the power you get as the youth pastor, director. You get to have a say, and man, I want to go this way. I want to go that way. And this is why I want to go, because of these resources that are available to me, because the time I have and the money you're paying me to do it, and the list goes on. Power and influence. You get a say. So at 81%, here are the options. You can A, do your entire group at time slot A, and then 90 minutes later, do the whole nother group at time slot B. Simple as that. Exact same thing, just offer 2 different times. You can do it 2 different days if you want. We're going to do a youth group on Wednesday and a youth group on Thursday. Another variation is that you can do the same time slots, just focus on different groups. Junior high is in time slot A, and senior high is in time slot B. That works. You can do them both at the exact same time in 2 different rooms. Yeah, junior high, you're going to go in room A. Senior high, you're going to go in room B. I've even seen it where junior high starts in A, senior high starts in B, and then they all meet in the middle in the big room. There's one big family service or one big family youth group in the really big room. I've seen a variation of that somewhere. But yeah, you can do that. I've even seen it where they all start together and then they break down into even smaller groups. They do a small group version of the ministry where you have 6th graders over here, 7th graders over there, 8th graders over here. There's no one way to do this. However, you do want to start thinking about breaking down your youth ministry into smaller groups when you're hitting the 80% capacity over 7 times or more. Because if you keep doing the same thing you've always done, you know it, finish the statement, you're going to keep getting the same thing you've always got. If you want to keep growing, you have to expand the space, expand the time, expand something so that there's more room for the teenagers. Now, what ratio should we consider for the youth ministry? We didn't talk a lot about this in the last episode. We have a little more time to talk about it in this episode, so let's highlight that. So there's what your insurance might say. We want A, B, and C for these ratios. However, be mindful that the church is a non-profit organization, which is completely different than say, the school's compliances. Public school has a compliance that has certain ratios for certain age groups. Most nonprofit church environments don't have to worry about that. That does not excuse the standard of excellence. So let me give you what we do. In our nursery, we have about a 1-to-3 ratio. We don't want 3 kids crying and then 1 leader shuffling between all 3. That hardly ever happens. So if we can get 1-to-3 in there, we're pretty happy. In the toddler room, or we jump up to 1-to-6. In the elementary room, we start to get to 1-to-10. Now, 1-to-10 is actually a good ratio, especially when you start to work with organizations that work with children in sports. 1 coach to every 10 kids. That's a very common thing. And then the older they get, we can jump to 1-to-13. Maybe you can be trusted with a certain number of group. We can jump to 1-to-17. Right around elementary, I'm thinking 1-to-17, 1-to-20. Even in kindergarten class, in the public school settings, I think they're in the 20-something range. This is why you get teachers. There's 1 teacher for every 20 kids in their class. And then there's the whole argument of, well, they're not learning because there's 1 teacher and too many kids and blah, blah, blah. And then, once again, my mission today is not to talk about what's right and wrong and what's any of that. My mission is to talk about, leading kids at the church, leading kids at home, leading kids outside the church, leading kids inside the church, leading kids. And if you are a good educator and you're good at leading young people, you can begin thinking through how do you lead these kids. Now, if we want to talk about background screens and being safe and whatnot, you're going to always want 2 anyways. So in the church world, yeah, there's going to be a second person anyways. But if you're aiming for that 1-to-20 in there, that's great. Then we get to high school, the youth ministry department. That can jump up to 1-to-30. This is 1-to-40. All depends on your comfort. Because I've coached soccer sessions with 30 to 40 kids all by myself, and did just fine. Until you get that 1 boneheaded kid that you just want to beat up. So there is a need and a hope that we have a second coach or a second teacher or even a second parent. So like if you're at home and you're outnumbered 1-to-20, that's a problem. So hopefully you're not parenting all by yourself 1-to-20. But even as a parent, right? I don't want to leave my wife home with the 2 kids all the time. She needs a partner. She needs help, and I want to be able to do that. I also appreciate that my wife is able to handle that on her own, giving me the opportunity to go fish, to go coach, to go do ministry. And the same the other way. I'm strong enough in what I do as a pastor that I can come home and I say, babe, let me watch the kids. You go and be a rock star at whatever it is you want to be a rock star at. And so, yes. Yeah, that's about it. So when we're talking about what are the differences between kids ministry and youth ministry and family ministry, that's what I got. This is a question I've seen more than one time, is what's the difference between a kids pastor, a youth pastor, and a family life pastor? And so to reiterate and to recap, I guess, kids pastors oversee ministries that deal with 0 up to grade 6. Youth pastors deal with grade 6 up to grade 12. And so next episode, we're going to talk about the family life pastor and how he's slightly different than both of those. Yeah. If you have any questions, hit me up, type in the comments. But until next time, everybody say, bye, Pastor Juan. Thank you for letting me speak into your life. At the end of the day, our goal is to raise little humans to one day become big humans. Be sure to check out my website, rongaleministries.com, to show your support. And hey, thank you for listening. Be sure to smash that like button and all the things the kids are doing these days.